All right, we are getting started. I can't believe it's already January 2025. Like, this is insane. Okay, so I've actually had a couple of people in the past say, Hung, you're not live. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to prove that I'm live. Okay, so we're live on Facebook right now. And then what we do is we post it on YouTube afterwards. So today it is January the 6th. It's around 10:30 Pacific time. I'm in Vancouver, so I'm operating on Pacific time. Okay, and let me just make sure that we are on here. So yes, so we are coming live to you on Facebook with another episode of Money Matters with Hung Lu. I am with Cash Property Inc. And the outcomes of these calls is really to teach you something about money, something about real estate and how it links to money, and really just giving you the knowledge, the information so that you can make sound decisions all the way through 2025. Okay, this is going to be such a fantastic year. So, Happy New Year to everybody. If I have not said Happy New Year to you, I'm wishing you and your family all the best for 2025. So, let's get into it today. So, before we get into today, because the topic is about three common misconceptions about TFSAs that I encounter with my clients and with individuals that I talk to about TFSAs. Okay. So now, before you go and take what I say as gospel, please go and check with a financial advisor. I am not a certified financial advisor. I just deal with money every day and, managing my own portfolio. This is what I've come to learn about TFSAs. And so I'm going to be sharing that with you. Three misconceptions about TFSAs, and we'll get into a calculation. Now, before we get into the calculation, I do want to share two exciting things. So where is my screen here? So let me share this. So the first thing, so on your screen, you will see an event coming up at the end of the month. So if you are local in Vancouver, North Van, Burnaby, Surrey, okay, Richmond, this is local to you. Okay, if you are local, come and attend the presentation that's going to be put on by the Wealth Development Network. Okay, so January the 28th, it's at the Brew August Pub. I call it a pub, but it's a brewing house. Come and check it out. I'm going to be presenting two topics, time allowing. Okay, it's a tight agenda here, but we're going to be covering how we're increasing the appreciation on an asset that we have, that we currently already have. We're increasing it by 1.8 million, and then we're also going to be talking about investing in campgrounds. I lived in my RV for 2 years, and so now I'm going to share with you some of the stuff that I'm doing in real estate around campgrounds, and so super excited. So if you are in town, please join me. Okay, now if you're not in town, well, tough noogies. Okay, um, the only other way to get this information then is if you join our monthly mastermind, because I do share this stuff on the monthly mastermind. So that is the other way you could get this information if you're not local in Vancouver. Okay, so the second thing that I want to share with you before we get into the TFSA misconceptions is the content to cash. Okay, so this is by Time, which is Thank You Media. Okay, and they are doing this content to cash. So you just join them on their Facebook link there. I will put that in the comments below. Please feel free to reach out. I'm assuming that anybody can just join, but maybe not. I'm a part of this group. Okay, and the thing with this is that if you are a small business owner, regardless if you're a small business owner or a medium-sized business owner, as a real estate investor, you should be looking at turning your content, your knowledge into cash. Okay. And so I am sharing something that I'm doing because I use Time as one of my sponsors on growing my business. And my business is real estate. My business is making sure that my family office is constantly growing, that my assets are growing in my portfolio. So I'm sharing some insights on how I run my business, and this is something that I use. Okay, so if you are looking to grow your content in your business, okay, and as a real estate investor, my business is real estate, okay, and you want to go viral, okay, this is the way to go. So Time, content to cash, okay, Time, Thank You Media will help you grow your business through awesome strategic content. Okay, so okay, so with that, okay, so now let's get into the TFSA. Okay, so let's go into this. So let me reshare a spreadsheet. As you guys know, I am spreadsheet happy all the time. Okay, so here we go. So let me close that down. Okay, so this is a spreadsheet that I put together just to explain the concept of TFSA. Okay, and so I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger for those of us who need bigger screens. All right, so okay, so here is the TFSA. So a little bit of a background about TFSA. It started in 2009. So hopefully you started in 2009. I didn't start right away because I'm like, okay, what is this? And how quickly is the government going to cancel this? Right. And I'm just like, okay, you know what? Let's just continue with my portfolio. And once I get some comfort and understand what TFSA is, then I'll contribute to it. Okay. So if you were one of the lucky people who got into TFSAs in 2009, then you would have put in 5,000. And this is the contribution limit that every single year it changes, as you can see. And so this coming year, 2025, you're allowed to put in $7,000. And it changes every year. The one year where it was very different, where they didn't index it to inflation, okay, don't ask me what that means. I just know that the limit is based on them indexing it to inflation. That's all I know. Okay. But why and how and all that stuff, no idea. Okay. But 2015 was the only year they didn't do that, which is why it was $10,000. And I'm like, oh, that would have been a good year to get in. Okay. So if you contributed every single year from the very start, you would have a total of about 95,000 of cash that you would have put in. Okay. So, $5,000 is not a big chunk of money. Okay. 10,000 from savings. Okay. I know so many people who are able to achieve this hands down very easily. Okay. If you're not achieving this, okay, if you're not able to save $5,000 a year, reach out to me. Okay. I don't have my QR code up here, which I normally do. Okay. But if you are struggling to save $5,000 to $10,000 a year, we need to talk. Okay. So this amount here, if you've been able to put this in every single year, by the end of this year, you would have $95,000. Okay. Now, if you've got your $7,000, I highly recommend that you put that money in now. Don't wait till the end of the year. Okay. If you have it all, put it in right now. Okay. That is one of the best things that you can do. Okay. So that's actually one of the myths. Okay. Or one of the misconceptions is that, well, I can do this next year. I can wait until June. I can wait till December. Okay. Yes, you can wait until June. You can wait till December. You can wait till next year. Okay. You can wait till 2 years from now. Okay. But the problem with waiting is that you're going to miss out on the compounding interest. You're going to miss out on the benefit of having a fully operational TFSA. Okay. Now that brings me to my next misconception, okay, is that, well, once I open up a TFSA, I'm done, okay? No, 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 okay? It blows me away. Like there's at least two people that I talk to every single year about TFSAs, and they're like, well, Huong, I opened up my TFSA and I put my money in. I'm done. And I'm like, no, that is just step one. Okay, step two is that you actually have to do something with your TFSA. Like you can't just put money in the TFSA and then not instruct what to do with that money. Like you need to actually implement it somewhere. You need to put it into something that will grow that money completely tax-free. Okay. So TFSA is one of the things that I love about what the government did in terms of helping Canadians force savings of money. Okay. So with the TFSA, you put your money in and it basically grows tax-free if you do something right with it. Okay. And I'm going to show you two things that you could do to grow your money within your tax-free. So super easy, so safe. Okay. Now, of course, disclaimer there, you do need to make sure that it's safe for you. Okay. That this money grows tax-free in your account. Okay. And if you do this consistently every single year, I'm going to show you what that's going to be worth, in how many years do we've got here? In 21 years. Okay. For some reason, I've just run it for 21. Yeah. 21 years. I don't know why. I just ran it for 21 years. Okay. So let's just say, okay, so let's just say you've been contributing every single year for since 2009, and you've been putting in the max amount. Okay, so these numbers here, okay, these numbers that the government's been allowing you to, and you're going to put in $7,000 this year. Okay, and like within this week, if you can do that, super fantastic. Okay, so let's just say because it's only $5,000, one of the few options out there is to buy stocks. Okay. And of course, I would buy, bank stocks or REIT stocks or like stocks with dividends. Okay. So my stock strategy is to buy stocks with dividends or buy them super, super low if I believe in that company. Okay. So $5,000 will get you in, you buy a couple of stocks. So let's just say you make 10%. Okay, if you're making 10% year over year, you're doing pretty good in stocks. There are people I know who are making 15, 20, 30% on stocks. Okay, that is not the norm. Okay, so I'm going to run it with the 10% because that is the norm that I hear people say that they're getting. Okay, if you're making less than 10%, then you need to revisit your strategy here because obviously something's not working. Okay, and that's where that meeting with me might make a really good sense. Okay, so let's just say you buy stocks every single year since 2009 and you're getting 10% return. Okay. So what's happening is that you're making money on the money that you invested, and then the second year you're going to be compounding that 10% on the money that you made the previous year. So you're not just making 10% on what you put in, you're making 10% on the interest from the previous year. Okay. So that is the benefit of the compounding interest that you'll see in this TFSA. Okay. So the interesting thing is that after 7 years, okay, so in 7 years, you're going to be over here. So look at that. In 7 years, you've put in about 41,000. Okay. 41,000. And you've made 10% on that money. Okay. And so at the end of that time, you're going to have roughly about $58,000. Okay. Which is fantastic. Like your money has grown quite a bit. Okay. And you're not just growing it by 10% a year. You're actually growing it way more. Okay. So for example, let's go here. I'll calculate it here at this point. Okay, so I didn't calculate it already. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the sum of all the money that you've put in. Okay, close that out. And we're going to take what we made. Okay, so far the 58,000 less what you've contributed divided by what you've put in, which is all the sum again. Okay, so the reason why we're doing that is what we want to do very quickly is just calculate your return on investment. Okay, so look at that. You've made 44% in total just from investing 10% over 7 years. Okay, which is really, really good. Okay, now if you divide that by your 7 years, that's per year. Okay, no, so that's not right. Okay, so that's not right. That should be way over 6% because you're making 59,000. Oh, see, because you still have your original amount. Okay, so let me see here. So this is what here. So let's do this. It's going to be the sum of all of these numbers here. Whoop. Sorry. Okay, let's go back here. Okay, so we're going to go sum. It's going to be these amounts here for 7 years. Okay, divided by what we put in, which is this number here. Okay, so there we go. Okay, yeah, so 44%. So that's what you've made in total from that amount that you've put in. Okay, which is super fantastic. Okay, so now what we're going to do is what I want to show you is if you've been doing this since 2009, that's fantastic. Okay, now hold on. I'm going to go over here because I want to show you this table. Okay, so this is the same idea here. You're putting in your money every single year and it's growing every single year. So the reason why we're stopping here at this number is this is the year that we're in now if you have been investing since 2009. So now we're 2024. So in 2025, this is where we're stopping. Okay, so I'm just going to highlight this over so that we can see this. The reason why I'm showing you this is I want to show you what the comparison is if you were to continue to keep buying stocks, or at some point you're like, wait a minute, I've got enough funds in here, I can go do a slightly different strategy. Okay, so let's just say that you've been buying stocks all the way through. Well, at this point, after 16 years, if you've been doing this, you would have $227,000 in your TFSA, okay? Just from making 10% a year, which is fantastic, okay? So what that, okay, so now if you at this point decide to pull out that money, okay, you would have made 139,000, no, 139% just from compounding interest. Okay, which is great. So now you, of course, this is per year. Okay, sorry, in total. So it's not per year. So that's in total. Okay, so now let's just say you decide to continue this because you don't know any other strategy other than keep buying stocks. Okay, so if you continue to buy stocks, it's going to keep growing 10% every single year, and you're going to make that amount every single that interest every single year on your amount. Okay, so now what's going to happen is at the end of this 21 year time period, you're going to have $337,000. And so the return on that is 296%, which is amazing when you look at it that way. Okay, now let's just say we decide to, instead of investing it in stocks, we change our strategy and we buy real estate. Okay. So now I'm not saying pull out the money from your TFSA, because at that point, then you're not really leveraging your TFSA continuing onwards. Okay. You want to be able to leave the money in your TFSA and buy real estate. Okay. And there's ways to do that. Okay. So what you're doing is you're transferring it in kind to a real estate platform, or you're doing another strategy that allows you to leave it in your TFSA to buy real estate. Okay. So just keep that in mind. You're not withdrawing your TFSA money. Okay. You're leaving it in. Okay. So that's the important thing. Okay, so that is the second misconception, is that you have to do something with your money that you put into the TFSA. Like, you can't just open up a TFSA account and not direct it to stocks or to real estate or something else. If you just open up a TFSA account and leave it, it's not going to grow, and then you've defeated the whole point of having a tax-free savings account. Okay, so that is the second misconception. Okay, so now let's just say you decide to change your strategy this year because you're learning about this strategy now from me. Okay, and you decide, okay, you know what, Hung, I'm going to listen to you, and I'm going to put some money. I'm going to transfer it from my stocks into a real estate opportunity. Okay, so now let's just say that you decide to put in the $7,000 now, and you leverage your 234,000 that you have available into a real estate opportunity. Okay, so usually in real estate opportunities, you might see a return every single year. Okay, which it could be anywhere from 10, 12, 20%, depending on what it is. Okay. So what I want to show you is, let's just say you don't see anything for 5 years, because that's the normal project timeline, is that you might not see anything for 3 to 5 years. Okay. So at the end of the 5 years, you make 50% on your money. Okay. So what I want to show you is that by doing this, you're actually a little bit less than where you would be if you were to get 10% every single year. Okay, so if I do that, so if I just add up the 10% every single year, that's equivalent to about 50%. And so I'm just saying at the end of your 5-year time frame, you're going to get 50%. Okay, so in this case, you're going to get 351,000 as opposed to 377,000. Okay, so when you do a real estate opportunity, you want it to be more than the annual return that you would normally get from your stock investment. Okay, because if you just make the equivalent, but you make it at the end of the 5 years, then you're not seeing the benefit of the compounding interest. Okay, and so you can see it really, like, it's very evident here that getting 10% a year is way better than just getting all of it at the very end. Okay, and the difference here is about $26,000. Okay, that's huge, right? Like that's enough money for a small down payment in a, for a house in Northern Ontario, okay, or a house in Winnipeg even. Okay, so the thing to keep in mind is that though, usually in real estate, that if you're putting in your money in real estate, it needs to be more than 15%. Okay, so I'm just going to move this over and let's just say I want to put in 15%. Okay, so we're going to go down here and we're going to say equals 15% times 5 years. Oh, no, not 15 number. So 15%. So let's go 15%. Okay, that's 75%. Okay, so if you are going to make 15% year over year for 5 years, that's equivalent to about 75%. But you get that all at the end. Okay, so at the end, your 234,000 is going to be is going to get a 75% return. Okay, that means you're going to have $409,000 in your TFSA at the end of that 5-year time frame. Okay, now if you're sitting there going, Hong, there is no way you can find a real estate project that will give you 15% a year, year over year in your TFSA. Okay, that's where we really need to sit down and have a talk. Okay, so not all of my projects are available to everybody. Okay, but you are able to find projects out there. Okay, if you are an accredited investor, or if you have family and friends who are real estate investors, or if you are a sophisticated investor, okay, you can get into these projects, these opportunities that should give you more than 15%. Okay, and there's ways to do your underwriting that you can get more than 15%. Okay, so that is the one thing that I want to show you here about the TFSAs. Okay, so now look at that. It's 331%. Okay, so this one here is, yeah, okay, so that's something else. Okay, oh, the other thing is, so this is assuming that you don't put in any additional cash after this year. Okay, so as you can see, like there's no contribution money here. If you want, you could put in a contribution amount, assuming that you're going to keep going at it. But here's the thing, the reason why I'm not adding in more contribution numbers is because usually when you do a real estate opportunity, you're not allowed to add more into that particular opportunity. You can move that money into, like, say, a stock, so you can have both going on at the same time. So you could have a stock amount making you 10% or 15% year over year. And then as that grows into a bigger number, then you can switch it over to real estate. So one of the things that I was doing was when my TFSA got to around 50,000, I moved it over to private lending. So I would have my TFSA growing in stocks, and then once it reached that magic number of 50,000, I moved it over to another platform that allowed me to utilize it as a mortgage. Okay, and so if you want to have that discussion, let me know. I will put some information in the comments about how to set that up, because there's ways to do that. Okay, so the other thing is, okay, so I do have a couple of tabs here because there's a few other things to consider here. Okay, so I want to sort of point out this concept of the 10% a year is not the same thing as 50% in your 5th year. So we did talk about that a little bit, but I want to just show you that the sooner you start, the better. Okay, meaning that the sooner you open up the TFSA and the sooner you deploy that into stocks or real estate or some platform that's going to generate some return for you, the better it is. Even if it's a couple of percentage points, it's still way better than nothing. Okay, so that goes into the first two myths, right? Like, don't wait until next year or the year after. Like, it's 5,000. Find a way to get 5,000. Even if it's 2,000, put something in. Okay. So if you put in, okay, so here, let's start on this side here. If you put in the minimum amounts that they allow you every single year, okay, so it's 5,000 every single year that you've putting in, okay? So you make 10% on that. Oh, let me make this bigger here. Okay. So we're looking at this side over here, and this is where you're just continuing to buy stocks. Okay. So you get put down 5,000, you buy stocks, 10%, you make 500 for the year. Your ending balance, you start with that, you make 10% on that, you make 1,050, you carry that through, and you're putting in $5,000 every single year. Okay. So that return at the end is going to be 33%, 33.8%. Okay. So now, if instead of doing the 10% every single year, you just get your 50% at the end, okay, this 50% is on the 25,000, okay? And so this amount here is way more. And so you're putting 5,000 in every single year, you're not making anything, but then you get 25,000 and you're making 50% on that 25, okay? The interesting thing here is that you make more on this one than you would on the 31,000 at 10%, okay? The reason for that is because you're making 50% on the 25,000, okay? Whereas in this case, you're making 10% on the 31, okay? So that's where it's so important to start as quickly as you can, because the sooner you start, okay, the better. But then the higher the return, the better. Okay, so those are two things to keep in mind. Okay, so if you buy stocks, that's one thing. But if you can save enough and make even like 5% year over year, and then transition that and make, let's say, 15%. Okay, you're pretty close to that. Look at that. You're at 32,000 and 34,000. So start somewhere, start small, even if you have to, but grow it. And then when you have enough cash, move it over to something that will leverage more. Okay, because keep in mind, 10% at every single year for 5 years is not the same as 50% in your fifth year. Okay, so however you run the numbers, just keep that in mind. Okay, so was there anything else? Okay, yeah, because 50% on is on the largest amount, so the returns are higher. Okay, so all right. So now I do have one more tab to go through here, and then we are done. Okay, so now this one here is just going through with some of the opportunities here, because I want to show you this, because I do have some people who say, Hung, you know what? I actually do really, really well in my stocks. And so it might not make sense to do real estate. Okay, so let's just say here, in this case, we're buying stocks. Okay, so this here, we're at the 95,000 already. So that means you've been contributing since 2009. You've built up your TFSA. You have the 95,000 that you've contributed. Okay, and so here you are contributing the 95,000, and then you decide to switch over. No, here you're leaving it in stocks. Okay, you get 23%. So at the end of the 5 years, you're going to get $267,000, which is fantastic. Okay, and let's just say here you do it my way by going into one of these real estate opportunities. You make nothing. So 23,000 at the end of the 5 years is 115%. Well, you make 204,000. Okay. So as you can see, you actually make way more if you left it in stocks, okay, and just bought stocks and made 23%. Okay. So this is that incident where, okay, my advice here to do real estate all the time doesn't make sense. Okay. So those are the two. Oh, the third misconception is that the TFSA is the same thing as RRSPs. Nuh-uh. They are so not the same. Okay. Two completely different investment strategies, two completely different things regulated differently by the government. So, not the same thing. Now, if I had to choose between a TFSA and an RRSP, TFSAs, hands down, so much better. Okay. So if you've got some cash right now left over from 2024, put it into your TFSA first, max out this year or max out last year, however you want to put it, and then tackle your RSPs. But max out your TFSA first, get it invested. Okay. That is all I've got for today. Happy New Year, everybody. Thank you very much. And just a reminder, January 28th, come and check me out at the Brew August. Okay. And also check out the what is it? The Time Media platform. Okay, so I will bring that up. So thank you everybody for watching. Have a super awesome day.